Hi, it's Melissa from Vibe Yoga, and today we're going to be doing the Yoga 101 6-week beginner series, week 3 flow, working on a little bit of back bending and working through our Sun Salutation B. So to start, we're going to start in our hero's pose. If you do have a block that might come in handy today, or a pillow or something to lift up the ground, feel free to have that nearby. To start in hero's pose, we're going to come with our knees together and our feet slightly separated so that we're leaving space between our heels to sit down into. So my knees are together and I'm sitting back here. And if your butt is not naturally touching the ground, that's where the block can come in handy. So for me, I like to put that block between the feet and sit here. Let's start by connecting with our breath in hero's pose, letting the front of the legs start to open up, stretching out all the way through those quads and through the front of the shin. And just start by becoming aware of your breath and see if you can begin to lengthen that breath, filling up the lungs and the belly. And as you exhale, letting out all that air. Imagine yourself growing tall through that spine. And as you exhale, let those shoulders come away from the ears, shoulder blades coming down the back slightly. And we'll take 3 more breaths here to settle into our practice. Gently start to walk those hands forward, removing that block or pillow if you're sitting on one. Bring the hands right below the shoulders, knees right below the hips, getting straight through that spine, making sure you're grounding through all 10 fingers here. We'll work through a couple rounds of cat-cow, starting the motion in your tailbone as you inhale, dropping that belly and opening through the chest. And as you exhale, curling in that belly, imagining this wave of motion starting at your tailbone, inhaling to expand through the front of the body, and exhaling to push away from the ground, drawing that navel up. Starting to connect your own motion with your breath, inhaling here, exhale. Let's take one more inhale. And this time as you exhale and curl through that cat back, we'll sit all the way back into our child's pose and take a few moments here just to connect with the earth. Remember, in child's pose, your knees can be separate or together, and you can put a pillow or block under your forehead here. On your next inhale, we'll pull ourselves up to hands and knees, curl the toes under, and as you exhale, bring those hips back, get that long line from your fingers to your tailbone, and then think about starting to straighten out through those legs. So really trying to get the ears and the head between the arms. My arms are rotating up and out, so the creases of my elbows are rotating towards the ceiling, and that's giving me a nice firm base across my shoulder blades. So try to get that long line from your hands to your tailbone, and then think about straightening out through the back of the legs. Let's take one more breath in down dog. And on your next inhale, we'll come back down to hands and knees. I'm going to walk my hands out about a foot and then come down onto my forearms. So my arms are still parallel to each other, my forearms and my hands are. I'm trying to keep my legs at a 90 degrees angle here, and then I'm going to let my heart drop between my hands. So you might have to adjust how far you walk them out. And again, maybe you can come down to your forehead or your chin, or maybe your upper back, that space between your shoulder blades isn't allowing for that. Another pose where you can use a pillow or a block. And try to surrender here. So just take 3 or 4 deep breaths, and with each exhale, see if you can really release in those shoulders, and that space between the shoulder blades up into your neck on your back. And breathe deep here. Two more breaths. And keeping those forearms grounded into the mat, I'm going to come up and slide my whole body forward, coming down on my hips and settling into my Sphinx pose. So here, my elbows are right underneath my shoulders. And if you're finding that this is putting too much pressure on your lower back, then walk those arms out to decrease that angle in the arms so it's not as intense of a stretch. Find that spot. Think about getting length through your lower back. And then imagine that your pelvis is tilting down into the mat. So if your pelvis is a bowl, you really want to pour it forward, really trying to get that pelvis down into the mat, then getting that length through the lower back. Push your forearms and your hands down into the earth and imagine them sliding backwards toward your feet in this direction. As you do that, open up through your collarbones. Your collarbone, and imagine that your head is an extension of your spine, so you're not cranking your neck back here. You're staying broad through the front, the shoulders are away from the ears, and my gaze is out between my hands. Breathe here, see if you can find a little bit of release in that lower back. We'll take 2 more breaths here. And to come out of this, we'll let the elbows come out to the side, gently come down onto one cheek, and you can bend into your knees and windshield wiper those feet a little bit, making sure that lower back feels nice and released. Listen to your lower back. If it feels like it's going to cramp up on you, or if you have a tendency to throw it out, then really take it easy. And if you feel any tightness, ease out of the poses. Just go where your body's ready to go today. All right, coming back to center, we'll let the feet come back down. I'm going to bring my head back down, looking down at the mat. And this time I'm going to come into my cobra. So the same position with those hips when we were in Sphinx, they're pushing down, they're tilted down so that my belly button is really coming down into the mat. My hands come next to my chest. My head, again, is an extension of the spine, and all of my work is being done from that lower back as I lift up, getting my shoulders and chest off the ground. So when I'm in my cobra here, I can actually lift my hands off the ground because my lower back is doing all the work. This is the low cobra pose. And this is an option when we start going through some flows and we have up dog. This is another option to do instead of up dog, taking this cobra pose, still getting that stretch through the back. Breathe here. One more inhale, and as you exhale, come down onto that cheek. Those feet can fold up, windshield wiping them a little bit side to side. Just keeping an eye on that lower back today as we start to lengthen and stretch it out. All right, one more pose here in our back bends. This time, coming up into cobra, I'm actually going to come up and push into the arms and come into my up dog. So this time my pelvis is off the ground, my thighs are actually off the ground here as well, and now my pelvis is tilted up. So this back bend moves up the back instead of just being the lower back, Now I'm feeling that nice stretch through the front of my body, through the front of the hips and the abs. Breathe here. Let the knees come to the ground and come into your tabletop. So we don't want to sit right back into child's pose here. Let's curl the toes and push back into down dog. Down dog is a nice neutral position to start coming out of a back bend without going all the way into the reverse, into a child's pose or a forward bend. All right, now let's inhale, dropping down to our knees. And this time we'll exhale, sitting back into child's pose. We'll take 2 more breaths here. Inhale, pulling up to hands and knees. Curl those toes, exhale, down dog. Then at the bottom of your exhale, we'll slowly work our way to the front of the mat, walking the feet forward or the hands back to the feet, coming into our ragdoll here. Always nice to take an extra breath or 2 in ragdoll, letting go of the day, letting go of any negative thoughts or things that aren't helping you right now. As I inhale, I'm going to straighten through my spine, getting into that tabletop back, and exhale, forward fold. 2 more times, we'll inhale to the halfway lift, straightening through that spine, long line from the tailbone to the top of the head, feeling that opening through the back of the legs. Let's take another breath here. Exhale, forward fold. This time as I inhale, bend my knees slightly, get that straight back, and I'm going to use my legs to help me stand all the way up to standing. Exhale, let the hands come to the heart. Inhale here, and exhale, palms come forward, coming into the mountain pose. Let that blood come back to the head, feeling grounded and supported here. Walking my feet together so that my toes are touching and there's about 1 inch of space between my heels. So almost like the outer edges of my feet are parallel to each other. As I inhale, I'm going to sit back, almost like I'm sitting backwards in a chair, and let my arms come up overhead, coming into the chair pose. So another option is to keep those feet hip distance apart, or you can keep the toes together to challenge yourself with a little bit more of a balance. In my chair pose, my weight is back on my heels, so I can lift my toes up. And I'm thinking about keeping that natural curve in the spine. So again, at times when my back's been really tight, this has been very difficult and something that I wanted to take easy. You want to make sure you're not hyperextending here, and you want to make sure you're not curving through the back. So try to keep that, when you're standing up, that natural curve. Try to maintain that curve as you sit back. Hands turn, pinkies turn in towards each other. That helps the shoulders stay back away from the ears. And this is a back bend, so breathe here. We'll take 1 more inhale here. And as you exhale, fold forward, straighten out through those legs. Inhale, flatten through that spine. Bring your hands down to the mat next to those feet, and we'll step the left foot back. I'm going to let the left heel drop down and angle that left foot towards the upper left corner of my mat. I have, it's not quite as wide of a stance as if I was doing a warrior 2 or a high lunge, but I am getting my balance here, keeping my hips towards the front of my mat. I'm going to inhale my arms up overhead, coming into warrior 1. So in my warrior 1, my back leg, my left leg is internally rotating. That's trying to keep my left hip forward. And my shoulders are square to the front of the mat. I have the same arm position that I had in my chair, with my pinkies turning in towards each other, letting those shoulders stay nice and wide. And I'm grounding through the outer edge of that left foot. So as I'm internally rotating and grounding, that helps me to get a little bit deeper into that right foot. My feet are on railroad tracks, so they're not right one in front of another. They're kind of separate. That gives me more space for my hip to come forward. It also helps with my balance. Okay, let's settle in here for 3 more breaths in our warrior one. Take one last inhale, and as you exhale, hands come down around that right foot. Inhale your weight forward, and exhale, step that left foot forward, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. As I inhale, I'm going to come all the way up to standing, and exhale, hands to heart. Inhale to sit back into chair. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Hands come to the mat. This time we'll step that right foot back, angling it towards the top right corner of the mat. And I'm making sure I have space to get that right heel down on the ground. Get my balance here by engaging my core, and inhale those arms up into your warrior one on the left side. So take a moment here, settling into your warrior one, making any adjustments that you need on this first one here. My right leg is internally rotated. That's helping this right hip come forward, and I'm pushing, grounding through the outer edge of that right foot. My left foot, my weight is trying to stay equal between my heel and the pad of my foot. That way I'm engaging both my hamstring and my quad. And get those arms up with the pinkies turning in towards each other. That right hip is coming forward. So it's working towards parallel to the front of your mat. It doesn't have to be perfectly there, but those shoulders are parallel to the front of the mat. Push through that right foot and breathe here. Inhale, and as you exhale, bring those hands down around that left foot. Inhale your weight forward into that left foot, and exhale, step the right foot forward, forward fold. Inhale through that flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, coming up through standing. And exhale, hands to heart. Let's move through this version of our Sun B, connecting one movement with one breath. Make sure you have good position and you're feeling stable as we move up and down, in and out of our warrior one. Let's inhale to sit back into chair. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, flat back. Hands come to the mat and step that left foot back. Position it for your warrior one with the heel down. And inhale will bring us all the way up into warrior one. And the next exhale brings us right back down. Hands frame that right foot. Inhale your weight forward. And exhale, step that left foot forward. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, up through standing. Exhale, hands to heart. Inhale, sitting back into chair. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Hands come to the mat. We'll step that right foot back. Inhale, arms come up, warrior one. And exhale all the way back down, framing that left foot. Inhale your weight forward. Exhale, step that right foot forward, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up through standing. And exhale, hands to heart. Let's add on to that slightly here. Inhale, sit back to chair. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Hands come to the mat, step that left foot back. Inhale up into your warrior one. And this time, let's straighten out that front leg, that right leg, and bring your hands to your hips. I'm going to step my left foot forward as much as I need to get my left hip aligned with my right hip. So I'm stepping forward about 6 inches or so. Make sure you're not locking out your front knee, but you are straightening out through that leg, keeping the muscles engaged. I'm going to keep my right hand on my right hip, encouraging it to stay backwards towards the back of my mat. Inhale that left arm high. And as you exhale, bring that right hip back and hinge forward. So the hips are equal, parallel to the front of the mat. And then when I can't fold anymore, I'm going to let the hands come down. Another great posture to use blocks in, to allow yourself to really target that right hamstring. Think about that right hip drawing back, and you'll feel that stretch intensify. Make sure you're not locking out that right knee, and see if you can begin to surrender over that right leg into your pyramid pose. Let's take 2 more breaths here. I'm going to bend into my right foot, into right knee, bring my weight forward as I inhale, and then exhale, step that left foot forward. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, brings me up through standing. Feeling that difference in the right and left leg. Exhale, hands to heart. Inhale, sit back into one more chair. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, flat back, hands come to the mat. Step the right leg back, angled in position for warrior one. Inhale, arms up into warrior one. And we'll let the hands come to the hips, straighten out through that left leg. See if your right hip is equal with your left hip, parallel to the front of the mat. If you need to step it up a bit, feel free. I'm going to keep my left hand on my left hip, encouraging it to stay back as I inhale my right arm high. Make sure I'm not locking out that left knee, hinging forward, keeping that hip back, keeping that long spine, and then letting those hands come down. Again, when I adjust this leg, when I find the hip coming out, if I turn that leg, externally rotate that leg and get that hip back, I can really feel this nice stretch through the back of that hamstring. Using my blocks here to get connection with the ground and targeting that left hamstring, breathing deeply, seeing if I can find a little bit more release. We'll take one more deep breath here. I'm going to gently bend into that left knee, bring my hands down to the mat, and exhale, bring my right foot forward. Inhale through that flat back, exhale, forward fold, and inhale up through standing. Exhale, hands come to heart. Let those palms come forward, taking a moment to feel that openness through the hamstrings and the hips. Making sure your lower back feels long and good. And let's start to move our weight into our left foot. Find that center of balance on that side. Really making sure you have your weight between your heel and the top of your foot. Those toes can lift up and spread nice and wide. I'm going to inhale my arms up overhead. Keep my left arm up in the air and let my right arm drop with the palm facing out. Get my balance on that left side, bend into the right knee, and try to make contact with my foot into my hand. So I'm holding on the inside of my foot. My palm faces out and I have that grip on the inside of the foot. This is a place where if you want to use a strap, if you're not able to get that contact with the hand, you can use a strap here. Once you do have that contact, then you're going to push keeping that right knee into the body, we're going to push the foot into the hand and start to hinge forward into our dancer pose. Trying to keep those hips level. And breathe here. And gently see if you can come up. Release that right leg and shake it out. We'll take that dancer pose to the other side. So take a moment to get your balance and shift your weight into your right foot. Inhale, those arms up. Let that left arm come down with the palm facing out. Bend into that left foot and see if you can make contact here. Once you have that contact, we'll push the left foot into the left hand and begin to hinge forward, coming into our dancer pose on the left side. Find that drishti, that place, that spot that's not moving that you can focus on and connect with your breath. And then see if you can come up with control. Balancing is sometimes fun as you're losing control, and when you really feel it, and you feel that center of balance, it can be really nice. All right. Let's inhale those arms up overhead. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale through that flat back. Bring the hands to the mat and step the feet to the back of the mat, pushing the hips back into your down dog. We'll take one more breath here. As you inhale, let the knees come down to the ground. Sit back and bring the legs around to the front. I'm going to keep my knees up into the air and slowly lower myself all the way down onto my back. Preparing for our bridge pose, bring the feet in as close as you can to the butt so they're in nice and tight. My feet are still hip distance apart. My knees are straight up towards the ceiling. I'm going to start by really connecting with my spine. So as I inhale here, I'm noticing that natural curve in my lower back. And as I exhale, I'm going to bring that lower curve down flat on the mat. So I'm engaging my core and flattening out the back. That's going to let my tailbone start to come upwards. So that way, as I inhale, I can peel that lower back off the ground. Try to keep those knees in straight so they're not coming out to the side. And then you can bring your hands down here. You can even interlace them behind, maybe even walking those shoulders in. If you feel pressure on the back of your neck, then bring your chin up slightly. Do not turn your head side to side here. Push into those feet. See if you can lift the hips up a little bit further and breathe here. One more breath here. And we'll slowly roll down as you exhale, letting the spine come back down onto the earth. Let's do one more round of our bridge. Setting up for it, we'll inhale here. And as you exhale, bring that lower back down, grounding it into the earth. And as you inhale, peeling up that tailbone, letting those hips come high. Breathing here into your bridge. Another option, if you do have the block, is to bring it right below that sacrum, that flat part, right near the top edge of your pant line. And you can relax the hips down, getting the benefits of this inversion. Let's take one more inhale here. As you exhale, slowly let that back come down to the earth. And take a moment with your knees up, letting the back come back to neutral. It might even feel nice to walk them out a little bit. And let them come in towards each other, or windshield wiper them slightly side to side. We've done a lot with the back today, so as we move into our Shavasana, if you are feeling tightness in the lower back, I would encourage you to either keep your knees up towards the ceiling, or let the soles of your feet come together, opening into your reclined bound angle pose. So we're going to work into our Shavasana, our resting pose. Let those legs come long, feet and knees out to the side. And again, if you're feeling any pressure or discomfort, tightness in that lower back, then take one of those other options where you can bend into your knees and release that lower back a little bit. Let the palms come forward towards the ceiling. Take a deep breath here. And sigh it out. And we'll settle in here for a few breaths. And feel free to stay in your Shavasana as long as you'd like. When you're ready, we'll gently wake up the body, deepening that breath, wiggling those fingers and toes, taking a nice big stretch up overhead, and drawing the knees into the chest. Make your way over into a fetal position. And with eyes closed, gently pushing yourself back up into a seated position. Thank you for practicing with me today. The light in me sees and honors the light in you. Namaste.